The restaurant and lodging industries play an important role in Michigan's economy, employing nearly 600,000 Michiganders and generating close to $40 billion in annual revenue. This Friday, and to start Memorial Day weekend, our governor has lifted restrictions for restaurants and the retail sector in parts of Upper Michigan and in parts of Northern Michigan. What will that do for the mom and pop shops? Can they even operate at 50% capacity? Can you be profitable at 50%? Who can forget the theme song, "Sometimes You Want to Go Where Everybody Knows Your Name"? What will the future of the neighborhood bar be? What can you expect the next time you check into a hotel? And will it ever look the same? Our extraordinary panel of experts will help us look into the future as we shift our focus this week onto the hospitality sector. Up first, our exclusive interview with Justin Winslow, president of the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. In our second segment, we'll talk to restaurateurs DeVonte McClung of Bloomin Brands and Bill Roberts of the Roberts Restaurant Group. And in our final segment, we'll speak with hoteliers Kevin Jappaya of KJ Commercial and Chanelle Namou of the Namou Hotel Group. If you have questions for our esteemed panel, please add them to the chat box, and I'll do my very best to incorporate them. It's Wednesday, May 20, 2020. I'm Derek Dickow, and this is Impact. This series is free to you thanks to the generosity of our sponsors. An Impact on Hospitality is proudly presented by Signal Restoration Services, a company dedicated to helping you restore your business or property anywhere in North America. If you've ever had a fire, water damage, or loss, contact Signal immediately for their relentless customer service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As we continue to navigate to a new normal through this pandemic, Signal is offering COVID fogging, cleaning, and sanitizing services, as well as business resumption planning to help you reopen your doors to a safe and productive workplace for your employees and customers here in Michigan and throughout the country. Call Signal today to get your business resumption plan in place. And for those of you that have lost a family or friend due to COVID-19, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We're honored to partner with the Children's Foundation and their COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund and help them raise proceeds to support frontline and essential workers. We ask that you consider making a monetary contribution of any size by texting 2020 IMPACT to 76278. Again, that's 2020 IMPACT to 76278. Last week, we raised $2,500 in one episode. Our goal is to raise $10,000 throughout the series. We appreciate your consideration for any amount that you can do. And we'll actually update you throughout the program in real time. And if you make a significant contribution, we'll be happy to recognize you. Our first guest is the president of the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, and he's going to give us a step-by-step approach for how we reopen the hospitality industry. Let's welcome Justin Winslow. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Derek. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to see you virtually. And if you could, you had a big week this week, and Governor Whitmer's opened up parts of Upper Michigan and the upper parts of Northern Michigan, for restaurant and bars to open up at 50% capacity. Can you give us your step-by-step approach for how you recommended to open up the state?
Yeah, this is something we've been working on and our team has been working on for several weeks. We put out a roadmap to reopening about a week and a half ago, 26 pages of guidance on all of the steps you really should be taking as a restaurateur to come back into what is going to be the new normal. It's a lot, frankly, right? There are new requirements as it relates to sanitation and to the PPE that you hear so much about, how you're going to properly socially distance your tables to meet new regulations. And so there's a lot went into that. And we really spent a lot of time working with the governor's team to make sure we got it right before putting it out. So it's the kind of guidance that has been the basis for a lot of these restaurants in the Upper Peninsula and then Northern Lower Peninsula to get ready for this Friday.
Can you talk a little bit about the Stay Safe program as it relates to what the national CDC guidelines are and recommendations are for the hospitality industry and how that applies to opening up here in Michigan?
Yeah, the governor announced the other day that we kind of had jumped from where we were in stage 3 to 4, or what she called kind of like 4.5. That the data, the health data, at least in the northern parts of the state, although we're frankly starting to see it more clearly in the other parts of the state as well, dictated that the opening of businesses, as long as they're following some of these protocols that I just mentioned, are going to fit in with her Safe Start plan. And a lot of this data is coming so quickly that they're making these decisions on the fly. I think many of our members would have loved a little more warning than the 4 days that they're going to have to be able to open their restaurant. But no one is saying no at this point to the opportunity to reopen to the general public. They need that opportunity.
Yeah, can you give us a little bit more on the governor's decision? I mean, did you support the way that she rolled this out, or do you see that she could have done things better?
Listen, all of us are dealing with it at sort of an unprecedented time. So I use the phrase often, we're not in a position to make perfect the enemy of the good right now. So would a little more lead time have made sense and allow the supply chain for this industry, whether it be food or the alcohol side, been helpful? Yeah, but that's okay. I do think that opening it up in some regions gives that supply chain a little more time to adapt and get ready for the onslaught. Because if 17,000 restaurants open their doors in one day, after you've been mostly closed for 2 months, you're going to run into significant issues. So this is, at least in that term, this is a helpful staged process for reopening.
Justin, everyone knows that the restaurant hospitality industry runs on thin margins and profits. How do you see these safety protocols affecting the profitability of a lot of these restaurants?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we've estimated that an average single unit restaurant with about $2 million in sales will endure about $25,000 of new costs just from PPE. That's nothing to say about the sanitation practices are the challenges of dealing with your workforce under this new scenario. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a challenge. This industry is going to need a lot of support. I think, frankly, it's going to have to raise menu prices in a lot of instances. The good news, at least on this, if there is a silver lining, is the public is supportive and willing to be flexible with their local restaurants. They know they're not going to be 100% ready on day one. They know their costs might go up a little bit, but they love their restaurants, right? People have repeatedly said throughout this 2-month shutdown that the thing that they miss the most is going to their favorite restaurant. So they're willing to give them that opportunity to not be perfect on day one, and that's okay, because restaurants are going to need a little bit of forbearance in the future here.
Absolutely. Let's talk about those restaurants that are opening up this weekend to start off Memorial Day. So what advice do you have for some of those restaurants in terms of social distancing and enforcing that, something that we're just not familiar with as Americans generally?
Yeah, we've been fielding an awful lot of calls. A lot of people trying to learn this on the fly, especially if you've been closed for the last 2 months and not been doing carryout like some have. We have a guideline for how to reorganize your dining room, but it's not a one-size-fits-all model. They're going to need to adapt to their own space. Well, we've been working a lot with the Liquor Control Commission to try to push restaurants outside into patio spaces, into, frankly, even open parking lots. We've talked about using parks when they're available, and the cities are actually very interested and willing to work with this industry to create more square footage to operate, because they know the capacity constraints inside are going to limit their profitability. So that's some of the things that's some of the guidance for this weekend we've been trying to instill on them. But it's a lot in a very short amount of time, Derek.
Yeah, no, for sure. But especially for those waiting now 2 months to open their doors. What advice do you have for the other parts of the state, other restaurateurs or those in the hospitality industry that are not yet open, that are, all eyes are on up north this weekend to see how things shape out? What advice do you have for those restaurateurs?
Yeah, they need to start that process today. They need to start communicating with their team. They need to be in touch with their suppliers on the food and alcohol side to gear up to be ready to start working and bringing back as many of their staff as they can, because there's going to be a training component required when they come back as well. You really can't wait till you get that order. You might not have the 2 weeks you're hoping for. Start building that out today and then be ready to turn the switch as quickly as you can once you get word.
Justin, what do you think COVID-19 will have in terms of a permanent effect on the hospitality industry as we know it here in Michigan?
That's another good question. I think we won't know definitively until we see the lasting effects beyond this short acute shutdown period, and whether or not society quickly turns the corner or this is something that lingers. But I think some of the things that were happening and changing in this industry anyway have just been sort of put on steroids, for lack of a better term. The idea that delivery and carry out were increasing segments of the industry are now, I think they're going to be part of the future long term. And how you creatively deal with that as an operator will play a big role in your success going forward.
I've got a question from Jason Nager. He owns Regency Manor in Southfield. His question is, what is your thought in terms of banquet halls? We certainly have a huge banquet industry here in the state of Michigan. You think about graduation season that's upon us now, that's not happening, wedding season approaching over the summer. What are your thoughts in terms of how do we open up banquet halls, and what advice do you have for those that are in that industry? I know you sort of cover it, right, with the restaurant side.
Yeah, but the governor's put together work groups for a variety of industries on best practices on how to re-engage. There's one that has yet to start on travel and tourism and in some of these larger meetings. So banquet space would be put into there, at least as it relates to how do you re-engage large gatherings. And that discussion needs to happen because that's not in our immediate future. We feel somewhat pleasantly surprised that we have groupings up to 10 for restaurant gatherings this weekend. Groupings of 50 and beyond there do not feel like they're happening in the immediate future. And so we need to get some quick guidance on how we can do that because it's a huge segment of our industry as well. And I know our hotel partners would agree with that statement it's such a big part of revenue generation, travel to this state. And we need to be able to move into a place sooner than later where that's allowed. But that guidance and the work groups haven't even really started yet on that front.
So what advice are you giving to the governor? I know you speak to her often as the chief lobbyist in this state on behalf of the industry. What advice are you giving her, and what do you think the top priorities should be in terms of reopening the rest of the state?
Yeah, I mean, we've been appreciative that she's been willing to listen and heed the advice of the industry, which has really been restaurateurs know safety. That is what they do best. They're certified and trained in safety in general, and they also know that if they want the general public to have confidence to come back out to them, that they need to demonstrate all of these new regulations, whether it's going to be easy for them or not, because frankly, it's not going to be easy. But we need to be trusted that we can move in that direction, and we need to be given that opportunity sooner than later because restaurants are closing at an alarming rate right now, and we need to move past that. They need some cash infusion and the opportunity to bring back their guests.
Justin, I've got a great question from Monique Henderson about the state requiring what licenses will they require for these businesses to serve alcohol outside of their premise, as you indicated earlier, encouraging people to do that, encouraging people to work with the LCC. So what is your expectation on the permitting process there?
Yeah, well, it's good timing on this. The Liquor Control Commission just last night put out new guidance streamlining patio permits, making it substantially easier, substantially faster, and I believe much cheaper than it has historically been. So restaurateurs who do want to get their space or expand their space out into the street are going to be able to do so and not have to worry about the Liquor Control Commission slowing that process up for them because we anticipate getting open sooner than later across the state, and the weather, especially coming this weekend, is very good.
So let's talk about, mostly the weather's not been that great lately, and so now we're starting to see the turn there. What keeps you up at night as an industry leader, as the chief lobbyist in this space? What are you most concerned about moving forward for the summer?
Well, as we go into the new phase, right? So we have been laser focused on this singular task of getting the industry back open. As we move into the next phase, it's what are all the different ways for this industry we can make sure that there's legislation moving and the regulatory structure is providing forgiveness, forbearance, and when possible, infusion, right? As much cash infusion into this industry because some are hanging on right now and are eager for that opportunity, but it's not going to be like a switch of turning revenue back on immediately. They're going to need some help and support over the next 6 or 9 months at a minimum. And so we're really focused on working with the legislature right now in a massive package of bills. I think we're over 30 at this point that are directly aimed at helping this industry.
Justin, I've seen reports and estimates that somewhere between 20 and maybe 40% of restaurants may permanently shutter due to COVID-19. What advice do you have for someone that's got one restaurant, it's a mom and pop shop, that's all the revenue they've relied on for the last 10, 15 years? What advice do you have for somebody in that position?
Yeah, they're in an exceedingly tough position. The cash flow presumably is not great for them, but I think that there is a pathway forward. There is clearly a desire by the public to support their local restaurants. So as much as they can stay involved in their community and communicate locally what they're offering and what they're doing, the community wants to support them. So they need to stay engaged as much as they can as well. And then to just call us anytime for guidance on what it is going to be in terms of navigating the PPP loan, navigating any of the other cash infusion opportunities that might be available, or if you're struggling with any of the new regulatory realities, we're here to help and try to minimize that cost and overhead to you.
Well, you're the chief lobbyist in the state for the industry. What's the best way that our viewers can contact you?
Our website is mrla.org. And if you're looking specifically for reopening guidance, mrla.org/open will give you everything you need, including the roadmap to reopening.
Thank you so very much for your time this morning. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you soon, Justin. Again, we want to remind our viewers, we do have a goal of supporting the Children's Foundation. We'd like to encourage you to text 2020 IMPACT to 76278, and please consider a monetary contribution to support the Children's Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund. We'll be right back in just a minute on Impact.
Hi, I'm Larry Burns, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation. In these unique and challenging times of the ongoing coronavirus, our mission to improve the health and wellness of children and families has become even more important. To keep communities safe and healthy, we have established a COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund, allowing us to offer immediate support to community organizations who are now providing food, learning kits for homeschooling, virtual mental health services, and more. With your help, we can reach more children and more families. I invite you to consider making a gift today. It will directly impact some of the most vulnerable communities in need. And to learn more about the work supported by the COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund, or to donate, please visit www.yourchildrensfoundation.org. Thank you for your continued support. We are in this together. Onward.
Once again, I'd like to encourage you to add questions to the chat box. I'll do my best to incorporate them. And first now, our esteemed panel focusing on the restaurant and hospitality industry. He's got more than 25 years experience in the restaurant industry. Started when he was 16 years old as a busboy. He's got a fantastic story. I could do an entire segment just on him. He's a good friend, and he's the joint venture partner at Bloomin brands, and some of their companies include Outback Steakhouse, Fleming's, and Bonefish. We'll say good morning now to DeVonte McClung. And our next guest is the proprietor of Roberts Restaurant Group for more than 35 years. Roberts Restaurant Group is a collection of 5 unique restaurants here in Oakland County: Streetside, Beverly Hills Grill, Roadside B&G, Cafe ML, and of course Bill's, and a place that I frequent often. And there have been days where I have had breakfast, lunch, and dinner from this man. Let's welcome Bill Roberts to the discussion. Bill, I do want to jump back into a time machine when I could meet a lot of my friends at your restaurants, and I frequent them often. You know, so much of what your restaurant embodies is culture and the, knowing your customers and customers knowing their servers. By the way, give my regards to Sharon and Dan, the breakfast crew over at Bill's. You know, Americans are creatures of habit. We're social creatures. You've been doing this for 35 years now. How on earth are you going to manage social distancing once we open up these restaurants?
Well, first of all, thank you, Derek, for being a great guest of ours. Yeah, this is the toughest part. We have great neighborhood places. We have wonderful ambiance, and it's all about knowing the guest's name. And yes, this is going to be a change. So there's apprehension, no question about it. As Justin mentioned, I actually have a team meeting tomorrow with my GMs to start putting together plans for, I'm guessing, southeastern Michigan will be about a month from now. But yeah, we're going to have to project hospitality, but most of all, we've got to make our guests feel safe and feel that we're taking care of them in the same manner, even though maybe or I shouldn't say maybe, the server will have a mask on and gloves and yada yada, and they're not going to be close together. So it's going to be a difficult situation, but we're going to work through it, and that's what we do. And I think the key is long range, obviously, medical help and vaccination possibly. But for a while, I think, thank goodness, we're going into the summer patio season. I think people are, well, all the surveys I've seen are much more comfortable in an outside venue.
I've got a couple photos here I want to share with you of pictures that we found of restaurants utilizing shields, masks. I think we'll see those now slowly scrolling. You see this lady here. She's kind of eating in a transparent glass cover. You see that another angle there that we found online. And the interesting photo that I found was the photo of people eating in pods. So is this something, Bill, that you're looking at as a restaurateur? Is this what customers can expect as this, and I hate to use the cliche term, but as the new normal that we're sort of operating in? I mean, people eating in pods. Here's a picture of servers, perhaps servers at Streetside, right? Walking outside with masks. Could we expect something like this? And is this what we have to look forward to?
You know, I think some places are going to try things. I saw the other day in Ohio, someone had clear shower curtains between tables. We're not going to go that far. I think we need to just make sure we have our distances properly. And this team has to think about where they're seating folks. And I'm not going to pull out tables. We just need to be flexible, because maybe later on we'll have a 8-top come in and we've got to bump a family and we've got to bump them tables together. So I think it's just using your head and doing this in a manner that'll be best for the guests. But we've got to make sure they feel comfortable in the dining room.
DeVonte, let's go to you. If I jump back into my time machine, I'm hanging out with friends, having a round of golf. Maybe I want to come to Fleming's or Outback and have a beer and hang out. We've got a table for 20. You know, you're a part of a company that is really, it's a global conglomerate, I mean, of restaurants. What are you seeing from your perspective on a national, international brand? What are you doing to take safety precaution measures for customers so that we can, is there gonna be a day where we can have a 20 person party at one of your restaurants?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think to start, we won't be there. We're going to be in a situation where it'll be capped off somewhere in the 6 to 10 people range, but we will get back to normal at some point, and we will have the ability to have larger gatherings. That's going to be quite some time away. What I think about when you think about just the scenario you ran and you go out for golf, you want to come by, you want to have a good time. I think we still can do it. We're going to be ready. Bill talked about PPE and all the different processes we have in place. The great thing about our industry is health and safety, as it was alluded to earlier, has always been the forefront of what we do. So we know how to be safe. We know how to ramp that up when we need to ramp that up. You think about a year ago, we were battling Hep A. So we had to take different precautions for Hep A to keep us safe. Bill talked about, vaccinating our people. We even had to do that in some of our higher impacted areas. So you will have that opportunity to come out, enjoy yourself, and do it in a safe manner. And for you, we will be able to get to parties at 20 down the road, but we will get back there.
I'm looking forward to them. DeVonte, from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge for you to turn the light switch back on once we get that approval? You've already started to do that in certain parts of the country. So what does that look like when the governor opens up the Michigan region? What will that be?
Yeah, that's a great comment and question. Because I'll tell you, we've had, my market spans from Wisconsin, Illinois, 3 in Michigan, and then we go into Ohio. And I'll have 8 restaurants open in this Midwest in the next 2 days. And in some cases, in Wisconsin, if everybody saw the story, the Supreme Court came down and squashed the shelter-in-place order. You can see on the minimal level, bars were packed that night. So for a brand and a company our size, of course, we were going to be more measured with our approach. But one thing we did, and we had the opportunity to do because of our capital position, we continued to pay our people throughout this whole thing. So that gives us a competitive advantage because that's the number one thing that's going to be the opportunity. Calling people back, getting them back ready to work, having them engaged to want to work, because quite frankly, some may be nervous about the current climate. So that gave us an opportunity and a leg up to be able to get back at it. But that's the number one concern. The safety, like I said, that's not going to be it. Bill talked about the dining rooms. That's easy too. Us taking our fire code capacity and cutting that in half, that's easy to do. We can do that without even taking furniture out of the restaurant. We just designate what to seat and not to seat, and then we still have added flexibility for the larger parties. So it's that people piece. That's what people have to focus on, and we've been successful there.
Bill, I'd like to ask if you have an optimistic view about how you will move forward with your restaurants here in Oakland County.
Yeah, I think we're beloved in some ways, and our team is the whole key, as you mentioned. We've got great staff, and we have had many emails, comments, et cetera, about can't wait till you get back at it. So, we're positive, concerned, obviously, because you build these to be full, not to be half full. But the carryouts / delivery is a big piece of it, and we're looking at right now on how to get online with ordering to make it more foolproof and easier for the guests. So versus a phone call. A friend of mine I chatted with recently, and he had so many phones ringing off the hook. He only had 2 lines, and he put a new phone system in because of the carryout right now. So though we are closed, but we ran carryout for about 2 weeks early on, and I figured out the cash flow was negative, and that wasn't helping anything. However, I think since then, over the last 6 weeks, things have perked up in that area, and I think Mama got tired of cooking, and people got used to the fact that things are different, and they started carrying out quite a bit more. So, it's been 2 months, but in many ways it feels like 2 years. We've had so many things change from that March 16th when we got shut down to right now. So I'm optimistic that we can get this going, and the whole key in our industry is sales. As someone said the other day that I was listening to, you're paying the sales today are paying the payroll from 2 weeks ago, and it's a cash flow business, and the cash started flowing in March, and so we've got to get that going, and as you mentioned, it's a lower bottom line in business, or the bottom line small, but it's all about volume, and that's what we've got to do, and it's through hospitality and quality food, and it's just a little bit different right now than the norm.
Bill, you've obviously been a master restaurateur. You know, some of your restaurants takes people maybe 90 minutes up to 2 hours to get a table some days. Not saying that I've had to wait that long, but I know that sometimes that can be the wait. So what advice do you have for other restaurateurs that maybe just have one restaurant? You know, you've been doing this for 35 years now. You really got this figured out. What advice would you give to the person that's just got, maybe it's a mom and pop shop, you know, they've got capacity for 60 people. This is all they have. So what advice do you have for them to help them persevere?
Well, I think like Justin said, it's all about the neighborhood, and our restaurants are neighborhood joints, and you know, our staff knows our guests. They know their kids. They've been serving them for years, and I think an individual-owned restaurant, that's what it's all about. Restaurants are the cornerstone of neighborhoods. We, you know, people celebrate their birthdays, anniversaries with us. Promotion. They, you know, their kids come to us for their first job. They come to us when they need a gift certificate for the, you know, soccer coach's, you know, end of the year party. So we're part of the neighborhood, and an individual restaurant, that's the whole key, is be part of that neighborhood, like Justin had mentioned, and take care of their guests. And, you know, the biggest problem for our industry right now is cash. It's getting up to speed, and I listened to PPP. Actually, it was a meeting of restaurateurs in the National Restaurant Association with Trump and Mnuchin the other day, and they were their message was go from 8 weeks to 24 weeks on the use of the monies from PPP, and that would help us tremendously as an industry. And so that's another piece. I'm involved with an Oakland County recovery group and business group, and one of the ideas thrown out to the county, and I don't know if they're able to do this, was to possibly back some loans for small businesses, and the whole key is getting them money and help. In downtown Birmingham right now, the city just passed a resolution to forego liquor license fees, patio fees. The decks go into the parking spots, and to drop those fees this summer. Also, they're looking at closing some streets possibly, as I think you alluded to with the LCC / towns of expanding patios. So many of the cities and communities are also trying to help the local restaurateurs.
DeVonte, I want to ask from your perspective, can you still, you own a company within a global company. Can you explain how you can still manage to be profitable at 50% capacity with those types of restrictions?
Yeah, you know, Bill talked about it. It's challenging. I'll tell you, when you look at, I think about day one when we were asked to close down and what our off-premise sales looked like that week. It was definitely something we looked at and we were concerned about. But because we've made strategic investments over time in off-premise, and we were able to repurpose our capacity to support that. Bill talked about phone lines. We were able to get up to 5 to 6 phone lines in restaurant. That allowed us to drive that very quickly. So that financial model for us, we've been able to get close to that cash flow neutral, which has allowed us to do a lot of things. When you think about going forward, off-premise is going to be such a part of our business going forward. So if you think about 50% capacity, that's still not going to be just take what you did yesterday in sales for the day and cut it 50%, because it's a lot of variables into that, right? Day parts, promotions that we ran a year ago, or what we're running right now, what we're featuring Saturday versus Monday. So it's not just apples to apples. What we have to look at better is how do we leverage the guest experience? How do we leverage each day part? And how do we continue to build on off premise to offset the misses? Because if I can get back to 40 to 50% when I open the restaurant, if I also have this new piece of my business that quite frankly is now a new business, and I can get to 80% of where I was at to start the year, I mean, I'm in a pretty solid place. I'm making money. So I think we have to have a fundamental focus on paying attention to what we're doing, you know, making sure the plans we have are unique for that restaurant so that it makes sense. So I'll give an example. At Fleming's, when we do off premise, we still have to do off premise in a way and deliver to the guests so that experience that they get in their kitchen is the same Fleming's experience minus the service that they would get at the restaurant. Because I think it's value there. I think when Capital Grille offered Stoli Dolies to go in quarts, I think that adds value there. So we have to just, if I'm a, you know, a mom and pop, if I'm me right now with the, you know, multinational brand, we have to make sure right now we focus on that off-premise piece and maximize it, build out capacity, and use it to leverage our current situation.
I've got a question here from Cal Hanna. What are the safeguards that are being put in place to protect the restaurant employees? DeVonte, I'll start with you, and I'll ask Bill the same question.
Yeah, you know, I talk. This is funny. I just did a call yesterday, and we talked about PPE because each state has different requirements, right? Some have guest-facing PPE. Some don't. They don't require it in the kitchen because, quite frankly, in the summertime it can get in excess with air conditioning. Doesn't matter of 100 degrees over a grill. So, you know, they're not requiring it. What my message is and our stance is PPE is not just for our guests. PPE is more about us taking care of each other in the restaurant, making sure that, you know, we are doing our best to stay safe and minimize exposure. Right now, CDC talks about 10 to 30 minutes. That's a big range, but 10 to 30 minutes of direct exposure that can potentially lead to you contracting COVID. So we're definitely making sure we've reconfigured our kitchens to allow that 6 feet personal spacing. It's going to be the same way in the dining room. We've repurposed how people will gather, the host stand, how our flows work. We even mapped out how you come in, how you go out, and that'll be our new normal. So all those things as a cumulative will definitely help keep our people safe going forward.
Bill, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Well, I think DeVonte hit everything right on the head. I mean, it's difficult in a kitchen to keep 6 feet, and I think relooking at menus is part of it, and there's multi-facets to the menu, actually from producing it to ordering it to keeping inventories lower than they used to be to you know, turning the food over even with lower volumes. You keep it lower, but our staff, obviously, the guidelines from the MRA and the NRA and CDC are, you know, there's questionnaires when people come in, take their temp. You know, we've got the thermometers ordered and send people home that aren't feeling well. And that, frankly, was one of my biggest concerns early on when we shut down after 2 weeks of carryout. Was I was concerned about this thing spreading to our team, and knock on wood, we've had no one that has been certified as having it. But you know, it's a concern, and one of the things I've read is that you should be putting together, if you can, Team A and Team B, so that should there be a problem down the road with a team member, that you've got a second staff, so that everyone from A takes 2 weeks off and Team B comes into work. So that's one of the many things I'll be talking with our GMs tomorrow, is putting our plans together. You know, and bringing people together after they've been off this long. We don't know. We may have lost some people. Someone might be working elsewhere in a different industry at this point. So we're kind of right at the start of this, but I've been watching and reading and making copies of best practices in all these areas. And DeVonte's right on the money with what he said.
Final question from Kevin Dietz. It's a good one. I know it's a lot of people think about it. Social media, Grubhub, DoorDash, helpful during COVID-19 or harmful for you during COVID-19? We'll start with Bill.
It's something we've not done. As I mentioned, we're looking at online ordering. We've looked at delivery, but we've so far chosen not to put our food in the hands of a stranger. And so we've got some concerns about it. Personally, we ordered from a restaurant a while back, and someone dropped the food off on our front door and rang the doorbell and actually texted us on their way. It's, you know, I have some reservations about going that way.
DeVonte?
Yeah, you know, I love what Bill said, and it's definitely a challenge. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you can look at it either way. Our entire brand went all in as it relates to off-premise as a strategic imperative. So we've had to figure it out. And what I will tell you is it can be challenging at times, just like anything in business and anything in our restaurant industry from a business perspective. It's about the relationships. Our individual managing partners, we connect with Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash. We get with the local drivers. We get to know them. We build a relationship, and we talk about safety protocols, and we try to make it less transactional from us to them, because that can become a challenge in itself. And the more you build that relationship, like anything else, you're just going to get a better outcome. So we've had some great success. It continues. But I would also tell you, and this pains me because, you know, the restaurant I grew up with at 16 years old, started at Red Lobster. You saw some challenges they had and the entire industry had as it relates to third party on Mother's Day. And that is a challenge. One of the things where we were able to leverage and still deliver some phenomenal experiences to all the mothers out there, we proactively set limits in place for when to order, what they can order, and you know, we shrunk the times. So I think having the proper controls in place with third party is important. Having individual relationships with the drivers, not just the organization, with the actual group of drivers, and they will change, right? It's a high turnover business, but it's important to make that part of your week as an individual operator, because that will pay dividends down the road. Because when a guest has a bad experience, it's not DoorDash. It's always going to relate back to Fleming's, to Outback, to Bonefish, to Bill's. It's always going to be us. So the more we can do on that front, the more successful we'll be. It's going to be here. It's going to absolutely be part of our future. So we have to do what we can do to make it as seamless and effective as possible.
Two different perspectives, two successful restaurateurs, two different styles. We hope you enjoyed this segment of Impact. We'll be right back. Once again, we want to remind you, we are doing a text to donate campaign for the Children's Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund, and we'd like to encourage you to text 2020 Impact to 76278. Appreciate DeVonte McClung and Bill Roberts joining us. We'll be right back on Impact.
As AT&T's #1 partner, MMS prides itself on delivering a world-class experience to our clients and our communities to keep them connected where they live, work, and play. During these challenging times, we are here to serve you. We have many options to keep you connected to your loved ones by offering non-contact transactions and curbside service. Also, because we care about our healthcare professionals, we are offering 3 months of free service to doctors and nurses. Visit mmsmobile.com/stores to find an open location near you and call ahead to set up a curbside appointment.
I want to share something, a Detroit-based company. It's owned by a personal friend of mine. It was actually started before COVID-19. I recommend it highly. It's called Trip Wipes. And I have these things all over my car, my house, staggered throughout my office. I recommend them highly. They are the best hand sanitizer wipe you can buy. It kills 99.9% of germs. And if you own a restaurant, a bar, hotel, this should be in your room. It should be sprinkled around throughout your life. I would suggest you carry it everywhere you go. Visit tripwipes.com and use IMPACT at checkout, and they will give you 15% off your order. Appreciate you supporting a Detroit-based company that really make your customers feel safe. And now I want to welcome our hotel experts. Let's start with Kevin Jappaya of KJ Commercial. He's been a commercial real estate, the premier commercial real estate broker in the state of Michigan for the past 15 years. He also owns 7 hotels, 5 in northern Michigan that are expected to open this weekend. So we appreciate his perspective this morning on impact. And then Chanelle Namou of the Namou Hotel Group, one of the largest hotel ownership development companies in all of the Midwest. And she's involved with properties representing global brands like Hilton, Marriott, and IHG. Let's welcome Chanelle to the conversation. Good morning to you both, or good afternoon. Let's jump right into it. As Americans, we equate big events with hotel stays. Thinking about all the events for the spring and summer have really been canceled. If we look forward to our calendar, 2021, the Super Bowl will be here. I want to ask you guys, do you expect there to be hotels? Do you expect there to be a hotel demand by February of 2021? Kevin, let's start with you.
First off, thank you, Derek, for having me today. It's very interesting times. It'd be hard for me to tell you by February that things will be back to normal as in group type business or sporting events, if we're going to capture that type of business. I'm hopeful that with the new news with the vaccine that's going to happen. But right now, we're just trying to focus on surviving throughout this year, maintaining cash flow, and then from there, hopefully things start turning around.
Kevin, is there a product that you think in the market, in the hotel market, whether it's luxury, extended stay, or bed and breakfast, that you think is performing well this weekend?
Well, on a national level, extended stay is performing much better than the transient hotels. The luxury brands, the group travel or casino type business hotels are really performing the least. And the reason the extended stay is working well is because they have a kitchen inside of the room. So you see a lot of frontline workers and other people that are utilizing those rooms right now. And then more importantly, I think the type of sectors that are going to do really well are more of the leisure travel type hotels. I think that's going to come back first. People are anxious to get out and about. They've been cooped up in their homes and they want to get out and enjoy, life like normal. So I think we're going to see like a pent up demand for people that want to drive go somewhere in a driving distance. So we're hopeful that's going to relate to some business up in the northern Michigan area. People want to see the natural beauty instead of taking a trip that they would otherwise go to downtown Chicago or somewhere else in the summer. We're hopeful they're going to take a trip up north. And then from there, I think, then you're going to see business travel to come back, and then probably last is going to be travel.
Chanelle, you operate 60 hotels. How has the shelter-in-place order and travel ban affected the industry as a whole?
Well, first, thank you for having me on, Derek. I mean, to be honest, it was devastating. I can't even sugarcoat it. When the shelter-in-place was first issued, it was something that I don't think anyone was expecting. We had been surveillancing our counterparts in Europe, and we were seeing 20% occupancies, and we just never thought that was going to happen in the U.S. And when it did, we had to go into from ramping up for our busy season right into preservation mode, right into survival mode. So, but the good news is, we've been in the business for 30 plus years. We've weathered the storm in 2008 with the recession. We weathered 9/11, and I'm very hopeful that things will, get back to the way that they used to be.
What was the tough decision for you as a company to open or close certain hotels once the pandemic hit us in early March?
Well, originally we thought that this was going to be a 2-week stint, and we're 2 months plus into it. And so at first we wanted to just see all of our hotels survive. We wanted to keep them all open. As time went on, we had to make some tough decisions about consolidating. And what we did is, we kept hotels open in every city. If we had multiple properties, we would consolidate so that we could at least transfer business from one property to the other in the same city. Those were
Let's
very
go. Thank you. Kevin, I want to ask you about deferring capital improvements. Is that something that your family is looking to do? Are you waiting until 2021 or 2022 to make improvements that were due today?
Certainly there's certain items that we're looking at deferring, but there's other items that we just can't wait. For example, one of our hotels in St. Ignace, we're putting a brand new roof on the hotel right now, and it's a good time because we're closed and it's we're opening up this weekend, so we want to get it in before when the demand comes in, and then hopefully, well, I don't know if we've seen it yet, but I'm confident that there'll be some kind of labor cost savings as people look for work.
Chanelle, I'd like to ask, your family develops a lot of hotels from ground up, and how has COVID-19 impacted first your design in some of the hotels that are upcoming, or just generally your interest in constructing new product?
As far as anything that is new that had not broken ground yet, those projects have been put on hold for now. We are in the process of still renovating. We're in the process of opening 2 new hotels in the next 2 months, one in Adrian, a Hampton Inn, and State Ridge in Sterling Heights. So we are not stopping projects or renovations that we've already allocated funds for. We're keeping those going.
Kevin, I'd like to ask the general essence of hospitality. The hotel industry is hospitality, making people feel welcome as if they're walking into their home. Paint us a picture for what it will be like as we start to check into some of your hotels moving forward.
So we're a Hilton franchisee, and Hilton has done a great job in making the clients the guests feel safe. And they just rolled out a new campaign with the parent company of Lysol in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic. It's a clean, safe program. But basically, they looked at what are the touch points that make people feel comfortable in a room. So how they disinfect it. So they have we're going to see this industry change where client expectations are going to be much stronger now of cleanliness. Not that they weren't in the past, but they're going to be somewhat paranoid that they could get, they touched a doorknob or a phone that wasn't, disinfected. So they created this program which makes sure that everything in the room was disinfected, including the remote, the TV, the handlebars, et cetera. And then they put a seal on the outside that says this room was disinfected. And then also, companies like leading companies are using technology to make it, touch, no point with the front desk staff. So you could do digital key where you could, check into your hotel room right from your phone, pick your room, and then use your phone to unlock that door. So you limit the exposure, you make sure the room's clean, and I think that's where you're going to see, top brands perform better than other brands in this market moving forward.
I think we have a few photos of what you just referenced from the Rob report of what the seal might look like and how these hotels are cleaning and disinfecting some of these rooms. Chanelle, what advice do you have for other hotel operators? I mean, you've got more than 60 that you've owned and operated. What advice would you give to somebody else that's in the industry about what they can expect and what they should be considering moving forward?
Advice, I would say communication is the most important thing right now. Communication is key with your brands. We franchise with many different brands, so they've been very helpful. Communication with your big clients, your group clients, that even though they're not staying with you in the near future, we expect conventions and groups and sports teams to come back. We're confident that consumers are going to feel safe at the hotels again. I would also definitely say that maintaining rate integrity is actually very important at this time. For any owners, I think that the instinct to lower your rate is not the right one to have right now. We saw with the SARS pandemic what happened in Toronto when they dropped their rates because of SARS. It took them 3 years to recover. We want to be able to recover quicker than that. So I would say that rate integrity is very important also.
Chanelle, what parts of the hotel industry will be permanently affected because of COVID-19?
I don't think that we can say what will be permanently affected. I think that over time, people are going to, we're going to get through this. We've gotten through things before, and over time, the trends will normalize again. I'm a huge traveler, that, business and personal, and I can't wait to travel again. And I think, it's going to take time. Leisure will be the first, part of the industry to recover. I think corporate will take a little bit longer. But even companies see the value in personal interface, and that, eventually things are going to get back to normal. Even if we lose a little bit of personal interface right now, like Kevin was saying, with the increase in technology, eventually we'll be able to incorporate those personal touches that the hospitality industry is known for.
Kevin, you've got a unique vantage point as a commercial real estate broker and a hotel operator. Have you been able to source any deals during the pandemic? Any business opportunities that you think are worthy?
Not really. I think majority of business in general in all sectors has really been, it's been a big timeout. Everybody's been on the sidelines, everybody's taking care of their businesses. There hasn't really been a lot of activity on the real estate side of transactions. We've done some leasing and put some properties under contract. But I think the difference between this situation in the past, especially in the hotel industry, this is a system-wide issue. So lenders are working with everyone. And so we've had, relief from the lenders. In 2008, when the industry took a dive, it was the lenders pounding on the hoteliers and saying, you need to pay up or whatever. Now they're, providing deferments. The SBA has been a great help for any of the SBA loans. They're providing 6 months of payments on your behalf. So I think that's what you're seeing right now is people are kind of on the sidelines waiting for things happen. I have no doubt that as time goes by, you're going to see that there's going to be opportunities. Just people that have over leverage. If you had a CMBS loan, they're less likely to work with you, or if at all. And in that case, those opportunities might come around for buyers that are on the sidelines. And the last few years, we've had a lot of clients that have been, waiting for a day where they've been hoarding cash really for an opportunity. And so I see that coming down, but I don't know if it's going to come down anytime soon.
Chanelle, from your perspective, in terms of opportunities that have presented themselves during COVID-19?
Right now, I think that, we have to wait and see how the market turns around and what's going to happen. We are looking for, we're keeping open minds about opportunities, but nothing right now. We're waiting this out.
I've got a question from Andy Wakeland for both of you. It's regarding considering turning any of your hotels into apartments. Have either of you thought of that, and if so, why?
We have not.
Yeah, we have not either. I mean, that's not something that I don't think that we need to do right now.
And either of you have any thoughts about what happens if we have a second wave hit this fall?
From our perspective, we're just going to continue to make sure that we are implementing all of the guidelines that we've been given. Luckily, we have great leadership from our brands to organizations like, Michigan Restaurant and Lodging and American Hotel Lodging Association. We've been very lucky to have great guidance on how to continue and how to make sure that we're taking care of our guests. Because at the core of hospitality, we're people taking care of people. So that's our number one priority. And we're going to just continue to do that and see what happens.
Kevin, any final words of advice for other operators in the industry?
I think Chanelle basically said, communication is key, stay in touch with your people, but more importantly is making sure that your staff is well taken care of, that they feel comfortable. Because if they feel safe and comfortable, they're going to project that out to the guest. And from there moving forward, I'll say one bright thing also is that we've seen even in the last couple of weeks that occupancy rates have been going up slightly, drastically down. Don't get me wrong, but at least you see some light of things starting to improve. And as they improve, little by little, hopefully within the next, I think it's going to be probably a 2-year recovery period at a minimum to get our industry back to normal. But hopefully to a point where you at least make your payments and pay your employees.
Chanelle, closing thoughts?
I would like to say I do appreciate all of all of our managers, our employees, all of the managers and employees at the restaurants that are continuing to, give us great food during this pandemic. They are essential workers too, and they've been doing a great job, and we appreciate it.
We appreciate you both sharing your expertise and hope that you and your family stay healthy and safe. As we started with the program, again, we're sensitive to all the lives that we've lost to COVID-19 and are honored to partner with the Children's Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund. I'd like to encourage you to text 2020 IMPACT to 76278 and consider making a contribution if you're able to. Help us make a difference while making an impact. And I'd like to invite you to join us next week. Bring a colleague and bring a friend. We'll focus on all things related to the small business industry next week on Impact. Same time, same place. You can watch all of our Impact programs on YouTube. Encourage you to subscribe to the channel today. And I once again want to recognize our presenting sponsor, Signal Restoration Services, for all of your remediation needs, and then to also Trip Wipes for those of you that own bars or restaurants, a Detroit-based company providing the best hand sanitizing wipe in the market. And thank you again to all of our sponsors. And finally, once again, want to thank all of our panelists, all of our speakers. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and found the conversation useful and insightful. And we want to remind you to stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you soon on Impact.
You created it. You believe in it. A brand dedicated to excellence and destined for growth. It's a dream that propels you, that colors every step you take, that looms large and steers you towards success. Your vision sparks passion, exudes luxury. Now is the moment to draw them in, to become what they covet, to navigate to that next level, to rise above and reach beyond, to set a course that exceeds even your own expectations, to leave the competition in your wake. Now is your moment to be the brand everyone